Hello! Welcome to my channel and my first series on Vedic philosophy from a scientific perspective based around the book Uncommon Wisdom by Ashish Dalela. I'm an audiobook narrator, and this is one of the projects I'm working on here from my studio. And I'm going to be sharing some insights on Vedic philosophy and live readings or recorded live readings from Uncommon Wisdom. So let's get to it. So where we're going to start is with the idea that the world is created and functions from the more abstract to the more detailed, which culminates in the more physical objects that we perceive. This is based on the idea that a semantic concept of reality where everything is ideas and concepts and the souls and creation are basically the thoughts and speech and song of the original person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, God, in that sense. So let's start, but we can unravel all this in a very systematic, scientific manner. So let's start with this section in Uncommon Wisdom called The World as Symbols. In this view of nature, the universe does not begin in the smallest physical particles, which are then aggregated to form more and more complex things. The universe rather begins in simple, and therefore abstract, ideas, which are then divided to produce more complex ideas. Science professes the use of simplicity. However, even the simplest things in science require perceptual faculties, such as seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, and hearing, although these faculties are not simple. Therefore, simplicity must be conceived in a way that describes how the ability to perceive it is produced. The current scientific notion that senses are complex arrangements of atoms whose properties are defined through measurements, which in turn depend on the presence of perception, is circuitous. The correct definition of simplicity is that which goes beyond the senses and explains how the senses themselves are produced from even more abstract ideas, which can be perceived by even more subtle forms of sensation. The smallest subatomic particles in the universe are the most complex ideas, while everyday objects like tables and chairs are relatively simpler ideas. The universe, the idea of space, is the simplest, and it is divided over and over to create the locations in space. Therefore, the dimensions of space are elementary ideas which constitute a tree. These dimensions are divided by successive additions of ideas to create trunks, branches, twigs, and leaves of the tree. The universe is now an inverted semantic tree of ideas, which begins in the most elementary idea and ends in the most complex ideas through repeated additions and refinements of the tree's root. The fact that there is a limit to the smallest objects in the universe, indicated by Planck's constant in atomic theory, entails that there is a limit to the complexity of ideas. We cannot indefinitely divide the universe into parts because we cannot unlimitedly add information. There is a limit to this division, which is attained when the smallest subatomic particles have been created. The universe is, therefore, the most abstract idea and the atomic objects are the most contingent, detailed, and refined ideas. The detailed ideas are produced from the abstract ideas by the addition of information. Okay, let's read a little bit more and then I'll share some thoughts. The semantic notion of complexity overturns our approach to reduction in nature. In the physical notion of complexity, the smallest parts of nature are primitive because we believe that small is simple. Physical reduction begins with the smallest parts and tries to build larger things by aggregation. The aggregation gives the impression that the whole is reducible to parts, although when physical theories carry out this reduction, they become indeterministic. This indeterminism is a consequence of treating material objects as things rather than ideas. This indeterminism and incomputability could be solved if the objects were also symbols and were produced from ideas. So the idea here is that the idea, the symbol, precedes the physical manifestation, that we can't have the physical things without first having an idea of them. The idea of a car precedes the construction of the car. Refinements on the idea of the car, what kind of car, and that sort of thing, all precede the creation of it. The idea of a horse is part of the reality of the existence of an individual horse. The idea of a horse can exist like a unicorn without any physical examples of it. And what creates these boundaries? So it's not that a random amount of things come together to create something, because what is randomness anyway but an excuse for not understanding the mechanism of choice that precedes everything that comes together in time, that manifests? We need choice. And when we try to take out the mind, the personality of choice, we're left with randomness, with emptiness, with an incomplete explanation of how things work. And it's souls that create the boundaries between things. Okay, so thank you for joining me in this first video in this series. It's going to take a little bit to get me rolling and less nervous, but I'm new to the YouTube format and everything, so it's taking a bit. But I am so excited to share this wisdom, this uncommon wisdom, which is the title of this book, which it really is. But this teaching that I'm sharing offers a unification of the different schools of Vedic thought and a complete and consistent explanation of reality, which transcends any religious concepts. So this has meant so much to me and has just something I just have devoured intellectually, and speaks to me in my choices and experience of daily life in a way that's visceral, inspiring, elevating, and all around like what feels like something I feel very fortunate to have come across. So that's why I'm here sharing it. Thank you for joining me, and see you next time from the booth.